Why were Protestant Reformation doctrines so complex to grasp? Imagine a time when everything people believed about religion was about to change forever. The Protestant Reformation was a huge shift in how Europeans thought about faith, salvation, and the church. But why did the doctrines involved seem so hard to understand? Well, it all starts with how deeply these ideas challenged what people had accepted for centuries. The Catholic Church had been the main authority, teaching that salvation came through a mix of faith, good works, and church rituals. Reformers like Martin Luther argued that salvation was only through faith in Jesus Christ. That was a big change and went against what most people had been told. It made folks rethink their entire relationship with God and the church. Another reason these doctrines seemed so complicated was because they relied heavily on the Bible. The Reformers believed that Scripture was the only true authority, a principle called sola scriptura. But most people at the time couldn't read or understand the Bible in its original languages. Many relied on priests to interpret it for them. The Reformers' ideas involved detailed explanations of Scripture, which used complex language and ideas that were not easy for everyone to follow. This made understanding the new doctrines even more difficult for everyday folks. The intellectual background of the time also played a part. The late medieval church had used a lot of philosophy and scholastic theology to explain its teachings. This involved complicated logical arguments and categories that were hard to grasp. When reformers wanted to move away from this way of thinking, they faced a lot of debates and disagreements. These debates often used technical language that was only understood by scholars, making the doctrines seem even more confusing. Plus, the Reformation was not a single, unified movement. Different leaders like Luther, Zwingli, and Calvin had their own ideas about what the Bible meant and how the church should work. They disagreed on key issues like the Eucharist and predestination. This variety of views created layers of complexity, making it harder for people to understand what was truly being taught. Changing the language of the Bible into everyday languages was a big step, but it was slow and uneven. Some people still heard sermons and read writings that assumed they already knew a lot about theology. Without a clear, simple explanation, many found the doctrines confusing and difficult to fully grasp. In the end, these doctrines were complex because they challenged old beliefs, introduced new ideas based on Scripture, involved detailed debates, and were presented in a time when most people lacked the education to understand them easily. All these factors combined to make the Protestant Reformation doctrines a tough puzzle for many to piece together.